Hello. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Toma Sessions Live with me, Richie, who's your host. So hello to Varen, long time no see. How are you doing? Hope everything is fine. So tonight, we are gonna have our own Kababayan, who is actually based in New York, and he is well, you'll know more about him once we have him on board. But it's really very inspiring to have kababayans who actually do well in other countries, especially in a place in the cocktail mecca called New York City. So in a few minutes, I think he'll be here. Now, for those of you who just tuned in, please, again, we ask you to subscribe to our Facebook page, Toma Sessions, as well as our YouTube channel, Toma Sessions. So, yeah, I think he's going to be here. Hello, Jake. So, for those who wants to compete in a cocktail competition, Tanduay is going to have a one soon. No? So just email or message Jake Tender21 for more details. So yeah, the week is pretty fast. It's already Wednesday. It's hump day. And yep, so far the week has been good. Unfortunately, last week we didn't have Toma Sessions, but we did have a collaboration with 3 of our top seaman vloggers. There he is. Hi, Ricky. Okay, so I think we can start. So I'll just invite you. Okay, so just to introduce our guest before he goes on stage with us. So, well, hi, Ricky. How are you?
Hey.
Perfect. Good morning. Thank you. I'm good. I'm excited to get this started. I mean, it's nice to reconnect with you again. I mean, it's been a crazy year, but of course, you know, it's well. That's why this. Well, just so you know, that's why this channel was born because of what's going on right now.
Of course.
And so far, you know, I've been blessed and lucky to talk to people and have inspiration, you know, with regards to our profession. Just last week, I was able to watch Tales of the Cocktails online, you know, and that's a different experience altogether. And in fact, Audrey, hats off to Audrey. No, she won. Yep. Of course. And I don't know where I saw Diedrich. Is he Filipino by any chance?
Oh, Kevin Diedrich.
Or no? Yeah.
I'm actually not sure. Well, actually, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you having me on here. This Kevin Diedrich is like a guy that I've looked up to for a really long time. We've only met a handful of times. At the times that I have met Kevin, he's been the nicest guy ever. There's back over at Pegu, we had this rule that if Kevin Diedrich walked in, that the rule was we had to serve him a pink gin. I think is what it was.
Oh.
Yeah. So there's little handshakes here and there, between bartenders. That was Audrey's rule anyway.
Yeah.
Kevin came in.
Okay.
You know, one of those. Yeah.
All right. So let me introduce you formally to our guests right now. So guys, so like I said to you a while ago, and in our Facebook, so we are blessed to have our very own countryman who is Filipino Pinoy tender. We'll know more about his his humble beginnings and what's he up to, and just to read his very, very, very rich resume that I have here. But of course, I'll mention the key parts, one of which is he is a head bartender of the famous Pegu Club. He was a former head bartender until the point that he was a manager, okay? And then he also had developed a bar program. He developed the bar programs of Suffolk Arms, which I was able to go to, luckily, when I was in New York last 2016, I think. And in the less, and also some rooftop bars across New York, which actually New York is pretty known for rooftop bars. I must say, when I went there again, maybe 4 years ago, and he participated in educational outreach at the International Culinary Center, the Institute for Culinary Education, and the Bar Institute Conference in Baltimore. Okay, and last but not the least, well, there's a table book called Winter Drinks where he was featured there with his drinks, and also he has been referred to in print as NYC's best bartender and mixology doppelgangsta. Ladies and gentlemen, Ricky Agustin.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for having me. It's so this is such a crazy new way to communicate that is so different from what we're used to. As bartenders, I think that we have like a propensity to want to connect and engage people on like a personal level. That's just kind of why we're there, right? It takes like a certain kind of person to give in the way that we give.
Exactly.
And I think that this is really cool that you're doing this, Richie. Like, this is like a really cool way to connect with people that I never even would have begun to think about. So hats off to you, sir, for putting together something that allows you to connect with not only the people who are in your immediate market, but also like, bartending community at large. I mean, I'm over here on the other side of the world, and we get to do it like this too, which is pretty cool.
Yep. No, thanks. I mean, I remember. In fact, I was trying to figure out how we started exchanging notes on the science side of bartending. A few, almost a year, I think, and then I figured, of course, I wonder how's Ricky doing. So it's a good thing because one of the crazy things here, now that you mentioned it, is the time difference. So I think, of course, thanks to you, because it's like 9 a.m., 8 a.m. So thank you for finding time, to wake up.
Yeah. 100%, Rich. Listen. So I remember when we first started corresponding about just like different preparations of bar ingredients, the process of putting together a bar program, the difficulties of running it, and even of sustaining something that you put together. And the funny part is that a lot of times I would receive those messages late at night, like late, like we're like closing the bar 4 a.m. type shit. Excuse me. On here? Is it okay? It's all right. I swear a lot. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, swearing's okay.
Bartenders, we do that.
Yeah.
But on this side of it, when I would receive your messages, it would be like 3, 4 in the morning, and we're closing down the bar. And what was really cool about that was that, like, a lot of the time I was in the lab, just kind of trying to figure out how to do different types of extractions, or different types of put together different kinds of ingredients. And from my perspective, it was like way earlier, way late at night, and then through our correspondence, you would go ahead and do whatever we had talked about, and then just we correspond back and forth, and that was the coolest thing ever. Because like at my point, I'm just like, fuck, it's the end of the day. Like all I got is ideas left, and then like Richie's over here, he got a bunch of energy, and he's gonna explore this idea, and that's it just keeps me inspired and keeps it going for me. Like especially when you're like grinding. When you're grinding for like a really long time, and it's just like, you know what? it's really good to be able to bounce ideas off of your fellow bartenders.
Yeah, likewise. I mean, you know, one of the things, of course, you know this pretty well that outside New York, well, most of bartenders aspire to go there in New York, and you know, because that's the mecca basically. That's what we were exposed to in the early parts of our careers as bartenders. And when I was there, in fact, I had a shift at the Vaughn where I was with Raphael, you know, Thomas.
BQ runs that. Oh yeah, BQ went.
Yeah.
He's doing the papas.
Yeah, Q. Yeah.
That guy hustles so hard.
yeah, dude. So that was fun. Those were fun times, and yeah, from then on, I've always wanted to connect with Filipinos, our kababayans there, and of course, you know, and learn something from them. Of course, I know also. Well, of course, one of the things that is difficult with this arrangement or communication or correspondence is that one is time difference, and two, it's even though you guys are Filipinos, in a way there's a culture you've developed, because I don't know really what's New York culture or New York bartending culture. You know what I mean. So it's like sometimes I'm a bit I'm trying to be careful in terms of like asking questions, or you know, if it's a good time or whatnot. So yeah,
sure.
But okay, let's go back.
Sure,
yeah,
please
go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, I thank you so much for that, because it's that approach is something that is very near to my heart, which is asking questions. Like I know that from a certain standpoint, you're very measured in the way that you answer questions, and the fact that like, okay, well, I want to be respectful of their time. But I would urge any young bartender, and you know, like that even goes for like guys like us, is that we can't do it alone. No one person can do it alone. So if you are in the position to ask questions, ask as many questions as possible. That's the biggest thing. So I would say just be relentless in your question asking, because there's an opportunity to learn something in everything.
Okay. All right. So you got it. You heard it from Ricky. So okay, actually let's start. Let's move back. So tell us something about tell us something about Ricky Agustin. Like, were you born in New York, or what are your roots here in the Philippines? So tell us something about that.
I have, you might be able to tell me how unique of an experience this is. Because my experience of being a Filipino American and a bartender is a little bit different than I think how other people connect to the culture and to their job. I grew up in Covington, Washington, which is a city about maybe 40 minutes outside of Seattle. So I'm from the west coast of the United States. I was born here. My mom was born in Santa Maria, Ilocos Sur. My grandpa or my grandma is from Manila, and then when both families emigrated here, my mom and dad had me, and I'm one of those Filipinos who some Filipinos get mad about this, and I can't really do anything about it except learn it. Is that I've never been to the Philippines. I've always wanted to go. This is like more than a professional thing. It's a personal thing for me. I've always wanted to go to the Philippines.
Yeah.
I don't speak any Ilocano or Tagalog, and so that makes it really, really difficult for me to connect with Filipinos who are like really enthusiastic about sharing the culture. And admittedly, for a really long time, because I was growing up in a mostly white suburb outside of a city, that I didn't meet another Filipino that I wasn't related to until much later. I'm talking like late high school, early college. The running joke out here is that every Filipino who's out here knows each other, and that's a good thing. And
yes, it is.
Yeah, so it's kind of a unique experience, and one that I'm kind of like working with. So
okay.
I grew up over there, and then moved to New York City after I got my job over at Pegu. So yeah.
So okay, so, well, of course, okay, before I continue with that, I knew you were a Ilocano because I was trying to figure out. No, because I was trying to figure out the last name Agustin. So because normally, or maybe the middle, your features actually it's like because I have friends who are from Ilocos also. So and then I kind of I don't know. I was just thinking. I was talking with my girlfriend, and then I was asking her, well, what do you think? Where did Ricky or what are his roots here in the Philippines? So is it north or south? And well, it was just we're just playing. We're just playing a game of guess. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh man. See, that's one of my favorite things. I know that this might. Okay, so I know that we're live, man. I know that it's just like this might be insensitive. But one of the coolest things about being a Filipino bartender is that, or at least in the United States, is that a lot of Americans aren't really sure how to place Filipinos, or like, right? So like, this is the way it usually goes: is that you're behind the bar, you're doing your thing, you're shaking, and then like somebody like eyes you for like a really long time. They're like, what's going on? And then so you walk over and you take their order. And it's like, hi, blah blah blah. Take their order. Normal service ensues.
Yeah.
And then when you come back with their drinks, like, okay, my friend and I have a bet. And I was like, okay. And so for that, so that can offer you a lot of different opportunities there, right?
Yes.
So, at first, it was my knee-jerk reaction when I was a younger fiery cat to become upset, right? And I wasn't going to outwardly do that, but people can tell your energy and they can tell your intention. So I've gone from that to just kind of looking at it as an entrance to a conversation. So instead of just being like, oh, what do you mean? What are you? It's like, okay, well, I know what you're asking, and I don't want to be insensitive. And with this, specifically in this context, the burden of the conversation rests on the bartender. And it's an unfair arrangement. But nevertheless, when you enter into this contract of working, you kind of have to like assume that burden, and we do that because we're good at it and we want to. So, yeah, right. So it's instead of just being defensive about it, just be like, okay, well, what do you think? And so that kind of becomes destabilizing, right? Because it shifts it. Right. So. There was, I'm not sure who said it, but when you first meet someone, when you have a first impression, you have on average 11 seconds to make that first impression. But what's really cool about being brown, and this is a certain level of privilege that I think that we enjoy as people don't know how to place, that you have a little bit longer to have an opportunity to make that impression. So, better for worse, that's just kind of, as Filipino bartenders, something that we have in our corner. I'm not saying that we should 100% rely on that, but it's the tool in the toolkit that we at least, can be, that we can be cognizant of, So at least when you're doing that, I don't know how it is with your experience.
Well, Filipino, Chinese, Indonesian, I get all sorts of nationalities, man. I mean, it's okay. I'm not, well, okay, how do you put it? Like what you said, and of course, I being a bartender in a company, it's like I can't really get upset with that. But of course, it's the same thing. Okay.
No.
On the context
the first one to get mad loses. That's the rule. The first one to get mad loses.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So it's but for me it's nothing. I mean, I'm cool with that. In fact, I'm a clown during my heydays, right? I like also messing around with the guests and make fun, no? So all good. I mean, you know. Okay, so having that settled, well, of course, shout out to all the Ilocanos out there, because yeah, I mean, you know, Ilocos is a pretty nice place. You should definitely visit, whether it's Ilocos North or South, right? Well, vegan, you know, a touristy place, but it's really good, you know. Okay, so let's go to Pegu. So, was Pegu Club your first bartending job?
Oh, that's a. I don't know if I've ever told this story before. At least not like this. So okay. Yes and no.
Oh, okay.
So,
sorry, if I'm putting you on the spot.
Not at all. That's why I'm here. So the story of how I got into the story of how I became a bartender at Pegu Club is the story of how I just got into bartending in general. And the way that I got into bartending was very similar to how a lot of people got into bartending, which is that they looked for an opportunity and they took it. So when I was in college many years ago, I was working through and trying to get my undergrad. I was a fifth year Starbucks partner at the time. I was working my way through college by working at Starbucks. I was a shift supervisor, and it moved around from store to store and was just, you know, like cutting my chops. So I had always been into bartending mixology, but more specifically about the mixing of flavors. Like when I was like a little baby kid, I would take like the lemon iced tea and I'd mix it with like the mango juice and I'd shake it and like all these things. I was like 8 years old, just kind of like shaking up juices.
Yeah.
And then I started parlaying that into food, and then but when I was learning all these things, originally my goal was like, yo, mom and dad, I'm gonna become a chef. I love cooking, but I'm not sure if anybody knows this about me, but I'm allergic to damn near everything: wheat, corn, soy, milk, everything. So my mom and dad were just like, okay, well, not in any mean way, saying that you can't be a chef, but it's like, hey, if you can't taste it, if you're going to react to it, you're going to have a really hard time being a chef. So I was like, okay, well, that sucks. But then I started seeing what people could do with liquids instead of solids, and seeing the possibilities, not only like what was happening then, but also like where it could be going. And a lot of those people who were at the forefront of figuring out what we could express using flavor just happened to work in New York and had compatriots who are working close to me. So I was trying to work my way through my undergrad, and Jamie Boudreau, who is he's a Canadian American American bartender.
Yeah.
Because
you're from Seattle, right? Are you
originally?
Yeah. Like, yes. Okay. Yes. Go ahead. Yeah.
So Jamie was opening up Cannon on Capitol Hill. At that time, the project hadn't been announced yet, but he and Andrew had already started construction on it. And so I was just like, hey, I don't know if you know me, but if you need any help to put together anything in your project, hit me up. And so I don't even know if he remembers this. I hope he doesn't. And also, James, sorry if you're listening, and Eric, sorry if you're listening too, because this is I've never told this like this before. But at first he was just like, hey, I'm good, but I'll keep you in mind. So I was just relentless. Every week I was just like texting him, just like, yo, do you need any help? I'm over here. And so I was closing up the coffee shop one night, and finals were coming up, and I had like an exam the next day. I was like mad stressed, but then I was checking on Craigslist, and it looks like, hey, this address is looking for a dishwasher, and I was just like, yo, who's your guy? You got two hands and can wash dishes. So what happens is like I'm still in my green apron. I smell like freaking whipped cream, and I go into I walk into Canada, and there's sawdust everywhere, and he's like, okay, let's go meet Melinda the chef. So we get back there. Long story short, I become a dishwasher at Canon, and I'm starting to work my way through there. But I am the worst dishwasher in the world. I'm back there reading Wayne Curtis's A Bottle of Rum and running the dishwasher way too many times. I'm new at this. I've never done this before, and I'm like running the dishwasher like half empty. But I was happy at my station, but also I wanted the opportunity to learn. So I started going to bars around the neighborhood, and there was this place that had newly opened called Kababayan, opened by a very strict Vietnamese chef named Eric Bon, and whose program was run by Evan Martin, who is a renowned bartender of impeccable skill. And so I would go there probably a couple times a week, because I would go around to all the bars surrounding Cannon, because like if I'm up there, I'm just gonna go around. So go around, I hang out there, and so I basically just started following the advice that Jeffrey Morgenthaler put out a couple of years before, which is to go to the bar, sit at the end of the bar with a book, ask questions, say please and thank you, over tip, let them know you're available, repeat, do all of that. And so I did that for about, 2 weeks, and eventually an opening ended up happening over at Babar, and Evan, the bar manager, calls me and he's just like, hey, do you still want to be a bartender? I'm like, fuck yeah. So he says, hey, you should interview with our chef, because I think you're good. So I sit down with Eric. He's kind of an imposing figure, and he's really intense. And he had asked me, I was like, hey, I see that where have you worked? And I'm like, well, right now I'm over at Canon. And I was about to finish my sentence, and he's just like, great, you start on Monday. And I was just like, I just got the job. So I go home and I start like reading everything. I start like looking at all the blogs. I start like trying to like memorize stuff, because I go live on Monday. And Eric has just hired me. I told him that I worked at Canon. Didn't let me finish and let me tell him that I was not a bartender. So I got into Babar that way, and I cut my teeth there for a couple years. I met a lot of people in my life who are like deeply influential and connected to me, and I'm connected. I just had an unforgettable experience, and so it was about 5 years there. Until it came time to arrange for moving to New York. It was always in the cards. It was always in the. So what happened, which is kind of an interesting story, that I had gone to New York as a scouting trip to kind of lay the groundwork for the move there, which basically meant that when I went to New York, I would have 1 week to do exactly what I just did to get into Bar, which is basically sit at the end of the bar, say please and thank you, basically get really, really drunk for just to get a job.
Yeah.
But in that time, I had met a lot of really cool people who I still keep in contact today. And when I came back, I get a message from one of my bartending idols who I've never spoken to in my life. And this is and her name is Audrey, and she was just like, "You came into my city, and you didn't ask me for a job," and I'm just like, I didn't know to ask. I went, I visited, and she was just like just one of these all right. So a week goes by. I attend a conference that was for future bar owners. Basically, they're just over there sharing their best practices. It was a panel with Audrey Saunders, Andrew Friedman, and Jamie Boudreau, and they were each just being so gracious with their time and with their knowledge. And then afterwards, I go to work, and it's brunch, and it's just like, oh, all right, well, it's busy. My mind is filled with like, oh my god, well, I need to pack, I need to do all these things because I'm preparing for this move, and my mind's elsewhere. But all of a sudden, in walks Audrey, and she just comes in and she kind of stands at the end of the door. Mind you, it's brunch, it's busy, we got a line, and we eventually get her seated, and it's at a longer table, and I'm like, just her? But then in walks Jamie, in walks Andrew, in walks his family. So it's like this entire it's like, have you, okay, but everyone knows this one. At least I know that you know. It's like the table of the Last Supper, where it's like a table for 26, but 13 people are sitting on one side.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're facing the bar. I'm working my ass off. I just clocked these guys. They're walking into the front door. I know who they are, and I'm just like, uh-oh, this is a really good opportunity, and I could either crash and burn, or this could be really good. So I turned to my bar back at the time, just like, all right, so that table over there, they're VIP. I have to figure something out because this is a motherfucking job interview.
Yeah, man.
So,
yeah.
Okay. So and then I go ahead and I try to I take care of their table. I pour everyone champagne at the bar to give them a little bit of time, give them a little bit of something to hold on to. I'm just like, hey, I got to handle this real quick. Please enjoy this with my compliments. And then I shake off a couple of rounds, and at the end of it, Audrey, who is really into the dramatics, and that's how I connect with her, because Filipinos love drama. She comes over with this day-by-day calendar, and she just goes, here's boom, your boom, 4 boom shifts, and August 5th, and on, and I'm just like, oh my god. She said, be here by August 5th, and you have a job. And that's how I got into bartending in New York. So just gotta work and see what's possible. You know, it was one of the most rewarding experiences of my life being over at Pegu.
Wow.
Yeah, Audrey, she ran it differently than people did, and I don't think people really realize that when it comes to creativity, when it comes to inspiration, the way that Audrey approaches cocktail development, cocktail making, and the development menu and curating everything is so just deeply methodical. So when we and intuitive too, but it is deeply methodical in the sense that in music they say you don't get to play jazz until you learn how to play scales, and she was all about playing scales. And so when we played scales, it was different than playing it on a guitar or on the piano or something. What we would do is we would line up a fuck ton of glasses, just like 30 glasses this way, 4 rows deep, and each row would be a different gin, and every field would be a difference of about a quarter ounce. So when I say deeply methodical, what I mean is that we would make that same drink more than 100, 200 times, and there are stories going back with like Audrey and with Chad Solomon for the development of the Yangon Fizz that was just ridiculously long. So if you can imagine, and the entire length, that 18-foot bar just like lined with fizz glasses, that's what that looks like. And of course, we're like we're spitting, and we're also eating food to kind of balance it out. But it's exhaustive, and it's expected that we would take notes on all of them, not only for the development of like the program, but also for our own development too. Because when we're putting things together live, you get to learn things live that you don't get to learn in other ways.
Yeah.
So basically, you're gonna learn a lot more from fucking up than you are going to learn from like hitting it out of the park. And what we know from hitting it out of the park is that you only need to do like one good hit, right? So
yeah.
Oh.
Well, actually, yeah, that's why I was telling you. I'm a bit. It was a bit unfortunate that Pegu had to close because I really wanted to go there, and of course, eventually I would have met you in the process, right? But well, I mean, things happen for a reason, and I'm pretty sure, something will happen once this is over, or it will be back in another shape or form, So
Yeah.
I can't wait for that to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so take us through. Now that you're in Pegu, why is it that Pegu is Pegu? Because for those who don't know don't have really an idea of what New York bartending scene is, and only hear of Pegu or read Pegu in the books.
Sure,
How is that? So
I'll kind of make an analogy here. So the Beatles only became the Beatles because they practiced, and they practiced together a lot. When they were first together when the band was first together before the addition of Ringo Starr, they were a house band at a bar. Beatles were born in a bar, and they were a house band in a bar, and they practiced every night, hours and hours and hours, repeatedly. It's that consistency, that consistent practice that really got them to where they're at, and got them to where their groove's at. It's what made them them. Pegu is kind of the same too, in the sense that it's a bunch of like, as much as we would like to think, none of us were any particularly special, except that we really liked what we did, and we were willing to do the work to make that happen. And we were led by somebody who was willing to leverage those resources into that work. Because honestly, like you probably know, like as an employer, like it's really hard to find people who are deeply motivated and who are like really, really passionate about the work. And even more hard than that, even more difficult than that, is trying to put those people and those resources in the same room. And Audrey was excellent at doing that. What she did was not only, like, aside from all her drink making, was that she was good at putting those two things together, and for creating a space where this kind of artistic expression was valid, right? In the same way that film, or the same way that music is valid as an art form. She she approached it with that kind of mentality, and a lot of money went to just this like cases of Tanqueray, and just like we didn't advertise. All those funds that otherwise would have gone to advertising went to products for research and development. Find me another bar owner who would leverage that much money into development, and I'll show you an imaginative bar program. Not to say that you can't. That's the only way to do it, because it's not. But that is what made Pegu Pegu, was the recognition of just like that we have things that we want to say with our work that aren't necessarily tangible outside of the context of the bar. Sometimes you can, in the case of like modern classics like the Old Cuban or the Gin Mule, or in Giuseppe's case, the Trinidad Sour, the monster that he created that he hates so much. But that's really what made it special. Like when I say earlier, like I was in the lab, what I'm really talking about is the other half of the bar. Pegu Club's floor plan was basically half of it was bar, and the other half of it was a fucking lab. There's like a bunch of fridges, and just like a lot of space for us to just like write on the walls for like if we wanted to like knock out a recipe, or if we wanted to like experiment with some sort of experimentation was just like, do this, but then tell us what happens so that either we don't make the same mistake or we can move forward and make it something better. All of us were contributing to that, and that's what made it so special.
Nice. Oh, I can just imagine. I mean, what's the seating capacity of Pegu, dining and bar? Or like, how many stools are there to count?
There were 18. There was an extra one, so it was 19. So it was like 19 stools. And then about, I think, either 78 to 80 seats, depending on how many people you fit in the booth, with a standing capacity of about 180. So, I guess like pre-COVID, before you could you could fit like 200 people in a room and it's no problem. Basically, what would happen is like, so when it comes to like bar operations on that level, we and we also had the we had the blessing of being there for a while too. So it was like, I think it was like 10 years. Like we were there for like 15 years, and we had a lot of data, a lot of experiences that we could draw upon. Because we had those experiences, we could make certain assumptions about what to expect on a given night. So between me and another bartender, we would basically budget one bartender for every 75 guests. So that's how we would do it, and that's assuming a certain like level of skill and like the temperament of the group, right? So when it comes to something that size, basically we had 3 stations, and 4 if you were on like a Friday or Saturday night. The way that the bar was designed was a design that has been, I wouldn't say copied, but when you find something that ain't broke, you don't fix it. So we had the point, which is like the corner, and you have people on either side of here.
Okay.
And then we had mid, which was, here, I'll just do this right here. Check this out. All right.
Okay.
All right. So, if I can find it. All right. So the basic layout of Pegu Club goes like this. This is the bar. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? Boom.
Yeah.
Great. This is entrance and exit. These are stairs. All right. And this is the entrance and the exit. We have point. We've got mid. And then on the other side of a divider, we've got service. So the point is the first point of contact when they come up these stairs and through this door. Yep. Over at PDT, they call it the personality station, but it's point, mid, and service. So one thing that we can assume from this is that anybody coming through that door is coming up here to have a good time, hopefully.
Yeah.
Right? And for the purposes of the bar, there's only one way in and one way out, which means that the point man is responsible for communicating down the line to the guy at mid and down at service, and he does that through the bar back or through a very set of hand signals or just saying so, right?
Yeah.
So one bartender for every 75 people. When it would get crazy as fuck, what would happen is we would add this one right here that we lovingly refer to as the bitch station, because you are everyone's bitch. Because you are, right? But we call it support. We call it support.
Yes.
It's a support station. So basically, what the support station does is exactly what it's in the fucking name. So when point gets overwhelmed, then you have like, okay, so your basic people are either going to go here or they're going to go here. But more often than they're not, they're going to look for these prime spots right here. These are the prime real estate, right? If you love bars and bartending, you're taking your date right there. So
exactly.
And we know this, right? So we're working on assumptions here. And if you know the pattern of how the night is going to go, one, you can release yourself from all expectation that things are going to go really bad, really good, because you have control over that situation. Or you can ask for help from your support. Boom, support right here.
Yeah.
What that station is is a rack of bottles, a bucket of water, and a bunch of fucking glasses, and some ice, and like a whole big old Lexan full of cold draft ice, just like really just like dense 1.25 inch cubes. You throw it at a guy's head, it's gonna hurt. So like, yeah, that's Pegu right there. It's worth noting that on any given night, you can expect that 20% of your drinks are going to come out of these two stations, and 80% of your drinks are going to come out of the service station.
The station. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, or dispense, which is not uncommon. A lot of programs operate that way. What was really cool about the service station over at Pegu? Oh my God, it was like its own room. I'm sure that a lot of service bartenders out there can relate to the fact that like when you're making like a shit ton of tickets and people sit at your station, you're so happy to have them there. But you have to be judicious about the attention that you spend and the time that you spend between the guests and the tickets. So even if there's a guest right there that needs help, you need to do that. But then also like knock out these tickets that are coming down here.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, over at service, we were expected to. Oh man. Okay, so when I first got to Pegu, the first place any bartender goes, well, aside from being a bar back and working, is to be put into service, which is basically you got dividers, and nobody can get to you. Not right now. We're all COVID bartenders. That's all I can. It's its own little thing there.
Yep. The service bars is I can relate to that. You know, I mean, time management is a challenge there. I mean, attention management is because it's the tickets or the guest in front of you. You know, and
oh yeah.
Without being impolite or you know without causing a drama there, you know, and that's the last thing you need on a busy night. So
yeah. Well, I mean, like, so when I'm training new bartenders, I took this from Giuseppe Gonzalez. Giuseppe Gonzalez likes to ask questions that don't necessarily have answers. They do have answers, but they're more philosophical musings than anything. But I would always ask my bartenders a form of my own questions, which is basically like, okay, like I'd be like, okay, Richie, what do we serve? What do we sell here? Not what do we serve? Not what's your job? What do we sell here? And more often than not, people will be like, drinks. We sell drinks. And I was like, okay, what do you sell? I'm like, I don't know. But the answer to that is that the bar sells drinks, because at least in this type of pay structure, the bar is selling drinks. You are selling attention, because we don't get paid off the bottom line as bartenders. And in tipping culture, the bar makes money off of drinks. We make money off of attention. So the answer to that, you sell attention, and it's time and attention are our most valuable resources, and the way that we use that is really important. Like back to what you're talking about with like the service bartenders, and being judicious about your attention that you're spending in different places. Grass only grows where you water it. So when you the things that you give attention to will grow. Case in point, my first head bartender over at Pegu Club, Kenta Goto, who is just fucking amazing. Okay, so Kenta is for me is like he's the go-to. He's the go-to when it comes to like bar knowledge and what is the smart thing to do right now. Like he's really good with that. And back when he was training me, we did this thing called bartender drown proofing, which is still etched in my mind. It's so scarring because like it's busy Saturday night pre-COVID. People are like flying out the freaking door. We got 200 people breathing down our necks looking for drinks, and the ticket printer is going. And anyone who works this job knows the sound of a ticket printer. It's like it will stick into your mind forever. And we had a rule that, well, at least for the purposes of this exercise, that nobody was allowed to help the service bartender until those tickets hit the floor. Until they could just be hovering like right above and not touching the floor at all. But as long as it's not touching the floor, you gotta leave that bartender alone, because that's the only way that we're gonna learn is gonna be through adversity. So, and to create an interior locus of control, which is a completely different topic altogether.
Yes.
But man, I got Kenta stories. That it's like, and I've got the rail. So like, you take them off the rail and you put them up on the thing, and you go the first one in, first one out, sessions. Trying to find multiples, work together, eyes up. Like these are like good practices. But again, I was a beginner, and so I was just like for weeks. I sucked so bad. Just like tickets coming down. But I'm sure like a lot of bartenders can relate to that. But at least at Pegu, the goal was to train that out of you. It's just like learn to find peace in the chaos. Learn how to don't rush to your death. Move quickly, have a sense of urgency, but don't rush to your death. You don't necessarily do that. And we found that it wasn't necessarily like hitting those tickets hard and fast that helped. It was more like that slow burn, like recognizing that there is a rhythm to the night, just like there's a rhythm to music, or there's a rhythm to a fight. If you're into martial arts, or if you're into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you know that the goal is to, at least in this context, to return the rhythm of the room back to normal service rhythm. Because when you get a rush. What are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
The goal is to return it back to a normal rhythm. Not necessarily to end all the tickets altogether, but to return it to a normal rhythm to where it's sustainable all night. You want to be working in a way that's not going to wear you out, but in a way that you can marathon and not sprint the night.
Exactly. Wow, very well said. Okay, by the way, we might get cut in 5 minutes, so let's just reset this. And so, but before that, shout out to everyone who's here right now. Let me read through our guest. Lennon was here a while ago. He's one of the bar managers here in the Makati scene. Ralph Allen Santos was here also. Your friend, I think the Little Pie is here. ABR Canedo, Burn Everything is here. Who else? Silver Dan said, what up, Silver Dan 31. And then who's your pal? Okay, thank you guys, Elaine. Yep, we have a lot. Atta Speakeasy is also here. So thank you guys for tuning in. Okay, so with regards to this, since we're talking of operations already, do you have like a standard, like how for a highball, how long are you supposed to make that, or for a margarita, how long should it be before you dispense a drink? Does Pegu have that?
The average ticket time was between 5 and 7 minutes. As you can imagine, like that's an ideal world, and that's something that we aim for. It would typically land within like 5 to 7 minutes from when you order the drink to when, like, from the moment they walk away from the table to the moment where that glass comes in and you set it down. Those were we had a lot of standards there, and it's kind of informed the way that I work too. Because like when I was working at Starbucks, I was thinking about becoming a career Starbucks person because of the structure that was put in place. I craved structure when I was coming up, because I was just like, well, there are so many different possibilities. How are you supposed to wrangle all of these infinite possibilities into one vision. And the answer to that for me was through creating rigid structure. Admittedly, now I'm a little bit more flexible in it because I'm a little bit more foundational in my practices. But I think Andrew Friedman said it best: you live and die by your systems. Those systems become standards, and they're standards for a reason until you can find something better. So like, let's see. Okay, so for like the first things I ever do when a bartender comes on board is I teach them how to break down the dishwasher, to strip it. So I phoned up Agustin, and Agustin is the I'm not sure if you guys have Agustin over there, but they are a facilities company that provide dishwashers and dishwashers maintenance and service. And if you ever own a bar, I'm telling you right now, if you ever own a bar, don't buy ice machines, don't buy dishwashers, because if you lease them, those are the two things that will break down the most. If you lease them, they will come and they will fix it as long as you hold that lease. But if you own it, you're fucked. So lease those things. But one of the first things that I do is I instruct them on how to break down the dishwasher, and then I always tell them, learn this like you're going to teach it, because you will. And so after they receive that instruction and they're able to like demonstrate to me that they're able to break down and put that back together dishwasher, which surprisingly very few like capital M mixologists don't know how to clean a dishwasher. This is like the craziest flex you could ever do. So if you're like coming into the first day on the job and you want to flex on a motherfucker, break down the dishwasher, and they'll be like, "Fuck, you know how to do that?" So do that, and so we teach bartenders for the future, man. We teach bartenders for the future.
Yeah.
But then when another bartender comes aboard, I have them teach the new guy how to do it, and so on and so forth down the line. Creating the system of, oh, hey, I know how to do this, I learned this, I'm going to teach you, and that creates a sense of pride for them and ownership for the business, which I think is ultimately important for success of a bartender. Yeah.
There. Okay, so I think I'm gonna reset it now before we get cut. So guys, for those of you who are tuned in, so I'm just gonna end this and then restart right away so we can continue on with our next few questions. All right. So see you.
Right.
I'll reset this now. Okay, bye-bye.